of Allah by the permission, my respectable teacher, and dear my classmates. One issue has been selected by me, so I ought to explain that for you. So pay attention, and that issue is pluralization of nouns. First, I have to define a noun, that what a noun is. Noun is the name of person, place, or thing. Like for example, here, Ahmad is the name of person, and house is the name of place, and the pen is the name of thing. Now I am going to describe the pluralization of nouns. Pluralization of nouns, according to the forms of nouns, are divided into two categories. The first one is regular nouns. And the second one is irregular nouns. First, I am going to describe the regular nouns. Regular nouns are those nouns which have specific roles when we want to change the singular form of the noun to the plural. And the rules are as below. The first rule. Most of the nouns only take s at the end. Like for example, pens, books, homes, cupboards, markers, cups, and
Enough.
many more. The second rule. If a noun ends with s, z, ch, s, h, x, and that time we have to add es at the end. Like for example, brush. Here this noun ends with sh, so we have to add es at the end, like brushes. Or watch. Here this noun ends with ch, so we have to add es at the end, like watches. And books. Here this noun ends with x. That I mentioned before, if a noun ends with x, so we have to add es at the end, like boxes. And bus. Here this noun ends with s, so we have to add es at the end because this noun ends with s, like buses. And many more. In the third rule. If a noun ends with the o and before o there is a consonant letter, so we have to add es at the end, like potato. Here this noun ends with o and before o there is a consonant letter t. T is one of the consonant letters, so we have to add es at the end, like potatoes. Or tomato. Here this noun also ends with o, and before o there is a consonant letter t. T is one of the consonant letters, so we have to add es at the end, like tomatoes. And many more. In the fourth rule. No, here if there is a vowel letter before o, If there is a vowel letter before O, so we have to add only S at the end, like radio. Here this noun ends with I, with O, and before O there is a vowel letter. I is one of the vowel letters, so we have to add only S at the end, like videos. No, radios. Or video. Here this noun ends with O, and before O there is a vowel letter. So we have to add S, not ES, like videos. And many more. And here are some exceptions too in this rule. Exceptions. Here a noun ends with O, and before O there is a consonant letter, so we don't have to add ES, but we just add S at the end. But because these are the exceptions, like lago. Here this noun ends with O, and before O there is a consonant letter G. G is one of the consonant letters, so we don't have to add ES, but we just add S at the end, because these are the exceptions. Lagos. Or photo. Here this noun also ends with O, and before O there is a consonant letter, so we don't have to add ES, but we just add S at the end, like photos. Or hero. Here this noun ends with O, and before O there is a consonant letter R. R is one of the consonant letters, so we don't have to add ES, but we just add S at the end, like heroes. In the fourth rule, if a noun ends with the letter Y, and before Y there is a consonant letter, so we have to change Y into I and add ES at the end, like city. Here this noun ends with Y, and before Y there is a consonant letter, so we have to change Y into I and add ES at the end, like cities. Or country. Here this noun also ends with Y, and before Y there is a consonant letter, so we have to change Y into I and add S at the end, like countries. Or spy. Here this noun ends with Y, and before Y there is a consonant letter, so we have to change Y into I and add AS at the end, like spice. And many more. And if there is a vowel letter before Y, we don't have to change Y into I and add S, but we just add S at the end, like boy. Here this noun ends with Y, and before Y there is a vowel letter. That I mentioned before, if a noun ends with Y, and before Y there is a vowel letter, so we don't have to change Y into I, but we just add S at the end, like boys. Or key. Here this noun also ends with Y, and before Y there is a vowel letter, E. E is one of the vowel letters, so we don't have to change Y into I, but we just add S at the end, like keys. Or try. Here this noun also ends with Y, and before Y there is a vowel letter, so we don't have to change Y into I and add S, but we just add S at the end, like twice. And many more. In the fifth rule, if a noun ends with F or if E, we have to change F or if E into V and add AS at the end, like wolf. Here this noun ends with F, so we have to change F into V and add AS at the end, like wolves. or wife. Here this noun ends with if e. That I mentioned before, if a noun ends with f or if e. Here this noun ends with if e, so we have to change if e into v and add es at the end, like wives. Or leave. This noun ends with f, so we have to change f into v and add es, like leaves. Or life. Here this noun also ends with if e, so we have to change if e into v and add es, like lives. And many more. Here are some exceptions too in this rule, like exceptions. Here a noun ends with f, so we don't have to change f into v and add s, but we just add s at the end, because these are the exceptions, like roof. Here this noun ends with f, so we don't have to change f into v, but we just add s at the end, like roofs. And chef. Here this noun ends with f, so we don't have to change f into v and add s, but we just add s at the end, like chefs. Or belief. Here we can add only s at the end. We don't have to change f into v, like beliefs. And many more. This was the regular nouns that it had the roles. The second one is irregular nouns. The second one is irregular nouns, are those nouns which don't have any specific roles. When you want to change the singular form of the noun into the plural, but the whole form of that noun is changed. Like for example, man is changed into men. Man is changed into men. And woman is changed into woman. Child is changed into children. And foot is changed into feet. Tooth is changed into teeth. Ox is changed into oxen. And mouse is changed into mice. And laws is changed into lice. And many more. We have a small note in English that there are some nouns, they are all the time in plural form in English, if they are in singular form too. They are trousers and scissors and glasses. These nouns are all the time in plural form if they are in singular form too. And some are vice versa. It means there are some nouns in English, they are all the time in singular form if they are in plural form too. Like sheep, fish, and deer.